All right, that was a bit of a throwback. Earth, what was the name? Earth, Wind and Fire. I mean, it was definitely before my time a bit, but the songs are definitely
How can
evergreen.
you not know? You can see Lionel Richie's face and immediately know it's him.
Yeah, I'm more towards like, you know, Backstreet Boys kind of thing. I can't believe I say that on camera, but yeah, I mean, those are the kind of songs that we normally groove right now, obviously. And there was actually a special mention that I think VE, our local boy band, actually sang the Malay version of Fantasy, which is called Hayalan, the Malaysian rendition of that. That's actually very awesome.
Everyone knows Hayalan Menjelma.
Okay, no, we don't want that right
and
now.
we've had them on our show as well.
Yeah,
so
we have that.
Super duper exciting as we're about to celebrate World Sight Day, which is happening in about 4 more days. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys who do have the ability to see are not thinking so much about, you know, your difficulties in navigating throughout your daily life. And of course, I'm pretty sure in school as well, you know, facilities for people who are disabled are not that great in Malaysia. This includes, you know, brailing as well. I don't see a lot of that in elevators, especially for high-rise apartments. You don't even have that walkway that's specifically meant for them to help them navigate their life. So what are some of the other difficulties that blind people face here in Malaysia? That's what we want to talk about, and that's something that, you know, I always am too afraid to ask, I would say. Yeah,
exactly, because when it comes to these kind of, you know, situations where you meet up with somebody with lack of ability, let's say, like, you know, losing a limb, not having a leg, or even like what we're talking about, the loss of eyesight, it's something that we may not be comfortable with, but that is why we need to talk about it more. We need to spread that awareness. We need to bring it out there for people to actually really understand what is going on and what is needed and what you know, these people should be getting more and more in regards of help, in regards of assistance, in regards of privileges, whatever it is. Because at the end of the day, we are Malaysians, we are still human beings, and we need to live with one another the best that we can.
Exactly.
And with that, we have 2 very special guests here. We have in the studio, we have Mr. George Thomas, the Chief Executive Officer of the Malaysian Association for the Blind. And together with her, let you announce.
We also have, of course, CHARISSA Chong, the founder of Vision with Hope, to get also, by the way, just to let y'all know, a finalist for Miss World Malaysia. That will be happening next week. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And good luck.
Thank you.
And thank you also to George for coming down to the show as well.
Yeah,
we're not putting you out, of course. No. You're together with us over here.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's kick things off. George, I know your position as the CEO for the Malaysian Association for the Blind. Can you just explain, or can you share with our audiences what exactly do you do and what does this organization represents and your do's and don'ts, your diligence, basically, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this show first. In 2 lines, if you ask what I do, is to lead and direct the organization to impact the target group, the blind community, to achieve their goals and their aspirations. And to also strategize the resources, that is donations and people, so that we can also impact the lives of the visually impaired. And coming back, past 2 years, I think the norms or the whole situation was different. We couldn't establish, or there were a lot of challenges to carry on our normal core duties, which is rehabilitation, training, and so forth, because we have also had challenges in doing online courses and so on. So our main focus, or we diverted our main focus on relief and welfare. And during this 2 years, I think we have gone very extensively on relief work. We even handled the flood in Pahang during that time, where 43 of the visually impaired were affected. We were able to rehabilitate them. Then during the course of this 18 or 19 months, we have been able to distribute 9,000 food baskets.
Wow.
And,
to the visually impaired, yeah?
Yeah, only to the visually impaired.
Wow, nice.
And that is the whole of Peninsular Malaysia. And in KL, or in Brickfields, we were able to also distribute 38,000 hot meal packs.
Wow.
Great.
Throughout this period. So that has been our main focus during this pandemic time. And now, from this Monday, that is tomorrow onwards, we are opening up our training centers. We have 3 residential programs So after a break of 5 months now, after lockdown, we will be opening up our rehabilitation centers, the 3 training centers, and we will be also opening up all our services slowly. But it is a new norm, so the whole workings, the people whom we can have is also will be different.
Right.
And as you know, blind people, when you say social distancing, 1 meter apart, it's a challenge for them. So it is up to the sighted people who need to be aware and help them out on this. And the blind I mean, all their lives, touch is the main thing, and sound.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that's how they see, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. That's how they navigate their life.
Navigate their livelihood. And like when we say that's how they do, it's actually when you blindfold yourself, you'll be thinking they have extra other things. When you blindfold yourself, you try to use your other senses.
Yeah.
So that's how. We are too dependent on our eyes to do our things.
Yeah.
So if you hear a sound or you hear a cat meowing, the blind can exactly figure out where it is, but you have to see where the cat
That's
is.
the difference.
Because
That's a difference.
you know, I've read, and of course, I don't personally know anybody in my family who's blind, but for you, it's different, right, CHARISSA?
Yeah.
Can you tell us, how did you start Vision of Hope? Because this is actually, I talked to you a little bit about, I think we were talking about a different thing, and then you brought up this personal story of yours, which is your mom.
Yeah.
So can you share with our audience at home, how did Vision of Hope started, and how did your mom come into play with the start of this organization?
Okay, so Vision with Hope is something that I started as a passion project because it was something very personal to me. My mom actually became blind when I was about in my early 20s. So when that happened, I wasn't prepared for it because I don't think one day we would wake up and realize that, oh, suddenly your family member or yourself would be blind, So when that happened, it was a huge transition, not just for her, even for me, because I had to learn to be her caretaker. I had to readapt to routines of how to lead her, how to guide her. And throughout the course of those years, it was quite difficult. It was also quite depressing for her and both me because we didn't know how to actually go about it. There was no help.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, there was one occasion I actually went for a run. It was for the visually impaired, and I was randomly paired with this lady. And she's also visually impaired, and her name is Jacqueline. George knows her as well. So she talked to me and she shared her story about how she went blind. And it was the same exact disease as my mom. It was called retinitis pigmentosa. And at that moment, I was just like, okay, this is fate. This is fate. How am I randomly paired with her? And she actually told me there's this community called Malaysian Association of the Blind. So that was when I felt like, oh my God, there's hope. There's hope for my mom. There's a community and she's not alone. So from that on, I felt like, I'm going to take all my experience with this and turn it into something powerful. And that's why I wanted to start Vision with Hope. I felt like this is something, maybe God put me through this, for a reason, to speak on behalf of the visually impaired people, because being blind is something we all don't expect, or we take our eyes for granted. So I think in my position, I just want to be able to speak out and bring awareness towards this community.
Sure. All
And
right.
here we have on the screen, you're doing some volunteering work as well. Can you explain a little bit about it?
Yes, so I think in regards of what George mentioned, COVID-19 has definitely affected the blind community because they depend a lot on their jobs like masseuse, petty job traders, other odd jobs kind of things. So during COVID-19, they're not able to leave their house. And so definitely getting groceries is a difficulty for them, the loss of income. So I've partnered with AMIB to actually help distribute groceries. So what we do is we collect all the grocery needs and we have a list of the families that we need to distribute. They're all blind individuals, and we go out there, reach out to them and distribute it to them.
All right. Great. I mean, like, this is definitely a noble thing. Something that a lot of Malaysians, I would say all Malaysians should really understand how it is that we can actually help. Hence why it's called Vision with Hope, as much that we can help. And we can't just base it on hope, obviously. We need to be proactive about it. We need to help out as much as possible. Back to you, George. We just wanted to know, maybe you can just paint us a bit of a picture on the numbers, the facts, in regards of where do we stand in regards of people who are visually impaired, who are registered with, and maybe together with the Ministry of Health. Can you just paint us that picture of what we actually spoken offline just now?
Okay, there are 51,045 people registered as visually impaired as of April 2021.
All right.
And the master registry is with the Social Welfare Department, or the Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat. We use that number. But according to the National Eye Survey under the Ministry of Health, and according to the prevalence rate which they have ascertained as 2.44%, there should be 700,000 visually impaired people in Malaysia.
Okay. There should have?
700,000.
700,000 compared to the 51,000
registered.
Wow.
So that's a big gap.
Yep.
We can't say whether the figures or the survey is wrong, but I would think there are a lot of people out there, especially hard to see or low vision people, which are not registered, because the registration is free.
Sure.
I mean it's voluntary. It's not compulsory. So a lot of people, there's a stigma. They don't want to be registered or termed as visually impaired.
All right.
Especially there are a lot of affluent people who are low vision. They do not want to be registered. And in my own experience, this is, I mean, I hope it's not happening now. Back in 1980s, I've been with the organization more than 30 years now. Okay, back in, the organization is 70 years old this year.
Wow.
So, before independence, in fact. So back in 80s, mid-80s, when we used to do a survey of visually impaired people and using key informant system through the Ketua Kampung and this thing, there are people, the Ketua Kampung himself do not know there is a visually impaired person in his community.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I have a staff of mine who goes to the house, because through people we know that there's a visually impaired child in the house. Go to the house, the parent or the father can come out with a parang and say, who said that I got a visually impaired person?
Okay.
This is in the 80s. I hope it's not happening now.
Is it because of the stigma that one carries?
Yes.
Okay.
So in the end, we had to intervene with the health personnel and the Department of Welfare, go in, take him out, go for rehabilitation training. And now he is earning and sending money back to his parents.
Great.
So he's a mature. So that is the case before.
Yeah.
So I hope it is not happening now, and people are more forward. And I would also think, like you just said earlier, that when people don't have vision, because most of the people we contact eye contact, you can't see, you're scared to look at him. And the person who comes with your companion, his companion, you talk to the companion instead of talking to the person. That's instinct, that's normal. So this is what we are trying to create awareness, so that people are more bold to handle the visually impaired. So we do a lot of awareness program. We do a lot of training. Probably we could even run a training program for all the crew in RTM. So how to handle blind people, so that that fear is not there.
Yeah, because I think we have, this is a little bit off, but you just reminded me of a local band as well, who most of the main, the singer, you know, most of them are blind itself, but I've met them, they're lovely people. As long as you treat them as a person, right? They will be fine, because at the end of the day, they only can't see, but they are still human beings. They still have feelings, you know, and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
So with that, I want to know, because he mentioned whenever somebody talks to a blind, they immediately go towards a companion. For you, has that ever happened? And can you share your experience?
All the time, actually, all the time. Because again, my mom was not a blind person; she became a blind person. So that was a very interesting take on how I see people around me change. So sometimes she would be asking the question, let's say if we go to a grocery store, the person would answer to me instead of her. So I would be like curious, like why don't they answer to her? So I think there's a stigma where they feel blind people are also deaf. That it's a very strong stigma, and I believe George as well knows this because we had a conversation on this before as well. So it is definitely something that is quite frustrating, and people tend to not want to go near a blind person for the fear of something, or maybe they're scared, they don't know how to handle them, or maybe they're not smart enough. I don't know. So there's all these kind of assumptions towards a blind person.
Yeah, I guess because like when it comes to something which is a bit of an abnormality, I mean like something that you're not used to, people tend to be a bit wary about it. You know, they're shutting themselves in. They don't know how to really properly conduct themselves in front of these people. It is something that we Malaysians need to be well educated, and I believe that MAB is one of the organizations who would do this, who would go around and you know, preach to the people that at the end of the day, these are also human beings. These are also mom and dads. These are also daughters and sons who live their lives as normal Malaysian as they possibly can. So we should not have that difference in regards of how we treat them. And how I actually saw this is that I just want to share with you, George, is that I had the privilege to actually, you know, be involved in the Paralympics earlier this year in Tokyo, and to see these athletes. We're talking about visually impaired athletes, people who can't see, literally can't see, blind. They jump into the pool and just perform the best of their abilities on an international level. This means that nothing will stop the blinds to do whatever it is that they want, isn't it?
Yes. Like when you see abilities of the blind, there is a blind person in 2012 who have conquered the Everest.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a Canadian blind person. And there's a master chef from US.
Christine. I remember.
Vietnamese American who has been a master chef. There are, even in Malaysia, there are exemplary people. The first person who has achieved a PhD among the blind person in the world, which is in the Guinness Book of World Records, is late Professor Dr. Ismail Saleh.
Okay.
He's the first PhD holder, blind PhD holder in the world in 1977. So that's a big achievement. And there are a lot of, like you mentioned about this thing. So achievement, abilities is like normal. The only thing is they are doing all the things closing their eyes. That's all.
Yeah. So we're running a little bit short on time, so I don't want to take away too much and divert away too much. We still want to talk about World Sight Day, right? Chris, what are you doing with the organization for the 14th of October? What's happening, and how can our audience, you know, come and support the event, or come and perhaps send anybody they know who is blind, who have not been registered, who have not tried out the program? How can they reach out to you guys?
I think definitely I would pass this to George on how to reach out.
Okay, they can reach out. Okay, we are also creating awareness. They can reach out on our website or email to us, mab.org.my. And we also can be, we are also creating, during this World Sight Day, which falls on the second Thursdays of every October. This year it's going to be on 14th of October. And it is actually to create awareness about eye health. And this year we are also going to do an art workshop on the 12th of October at MAB, where we will have blind people learning how to do art, and then we will be exhibiting that for auction and so forth. We are also collaborating with the Lions Club. Lions Club International was the first to do, initiate the World Sight Day in 1990s.
Yes, all right. So basically, there's a lot of things that people, you know, us viewers can actually go out. Just go on Google, just check out Malaysian Association of Blind, and together with Vision with Hope as well. These two are very, very, very productive organization out there, helping the blind and wanting to make a better world for everyone else. Thank you so much for coming into the show, George, as well as CHARISSA.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome. And don't forget to, of course, guys, do support CHARISSA. Her finals is happening on the 16th of October as well. So plenty of things happening for both of you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.